ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another lesson under the readings in the Philippine history. So what are you waiting for? Grab your pen and paper and let's start digging into the soil of knowledge as we explore the topic for today, which is the Agrarian Reform. This report is presented to you by Chrislyn L, Tingson, Nervies, Lekha Toquero, and Norhana Taher. And this report will be submitted to Sir Mike Repalbor. Now we have here our 3 learning objectives. At the end of this lesson, we should be able to, number 1, trace the history of the land reform program in the Philippines. Number 2, discuss the salient features of each agrarian system. Number 3, evaluate the comprehensive agrarian reform program. And now, for us to be able to understand our topic for today, let us start by defining what is agrarian reform all about. Any idea? Okay, you're right. Agrarian reform refers to the process of redistributing land ownership, often from large landowners to landless farmers or smaller-scale agricultural producers, with the aim of achieving social justice, economic development, and rural stability. So historically, many Filipinos have experienced an equal distribution of land with large landowners holding vast tract of land while the majority of the population, particularly the small-scale farmers and landless peasants, have limited or no access to land. Agrarian reform seeks to rectify this imbalance by redistributing land from large landowners to those who lack access, typically landless farmers or smaller-scale agricultural producers. So during the American colonization in the Philippines, nagkaroon sila ng mga hakbang para ma-address ang agrarian problem o ang mga problema sa lupa sa Pilipinas. At ang tanong, ano po ba ang naging solusyon nila? They addressed the agrarian problem by acquiring the prior lands from religious corporation and selling them to the tenants. Ang hakbang na ito ay naglalayo na ma-distribute ang mga land ownership and empower local farmers. However, ang nangyari ay there is a significant portion of the land ended up in the land of new landlords who were mga Filipinos. Ang tanong, ano po ba ang naging resulta nito? And why does agrarian problem worsen during the American period? And the answer is because many tenants soon began to resort to armed means para makuha ulit ang kanilang mga land. And some of them claimed that the lands they were tilling were owned by their ancestors before this land were claimed by landlords with land titles. Kung kaya naman po, marami ang nagalit at nag-alsa. At isa sa mga naging resulta nito ay ang Tayog Uprising. Ano ba itong Tayog Uprising? On January 11, 1931, Pedro Calosa led an uprising in Tayog, Pangasinan against the Americans and Hacienderos. With the backing of Philippine Constabulary, peasants organized an attack to the Municipal Hall of Tayog to demand for independence, equitable distribution of land, and end the suffering of the poor. Ngunit ang nasabing uprising daw ay hindi naging successful and it was subjected to controversies. It has raised public attention of the history of land peasants' struggle in the province in the country. And this outcome highlights the complexities and challenges associated with agrarian reform efforts as well as the underlying power dynamics and economic inequalities within colonial societies. While the initiative to promote social justice and economic development, the transfer of land often perpetuated existing patterns of land concentration and exploitation, and this only nag-highlight sa need for comprehensive and equitable agrarian reform policies na kayang mag-address or solusyonan ang mga causes of land inequality and empower marginalized communities. Okay, so the next slide will be tackled by the next reporter.
So, as part sa program ni President Quezon, which is the Commonwealth Government, iyang gisuportahan ang social justice para na lang pud mo-stop ang agrarian unrest in Central Luzon para na din matugunan ang kahirapan sa mga magsasaka. So this program was in line with the provision of Article 2, Section 5 of the 1935 Constitution, which states that the promotion of social justice to ensure the well-being and economic security of all people should be concern of the state. So, the purpose of this act is mag-establish o control sa landlord-tenant relationship, especially sa mga concerns sa rice lands. So, this act likely aimed to address issues like sa unfair treatment ng mga landlords sa ilang mga tenant. So, it gives equitable distribution of rights and responsibilities between landlords and tenants. So, ang function ani is to regulate the prices of rice and corn sa Pilipinas. Ginakontrol nila ang mga presyo para na lang din mas stable ang market and ma-sure nga fair ang balik sa farmer o consumers. So this one was mandate to facilitate the sale of lease of hacienda sa mga tenants. It addressed issues related sa mga land ownership, concentration, and landlessness among agricultural workers. Dili pod ginaalaw na ang mga tenants na makapalit og haciendas. Many of the social justice programs of the Commonwealth government, however, were not enforced. Legislation of these planned programs were drafted by many of the land-owning legislators in the Commonwealth National Assembly who would be affected if they would pass these laws. So despite sa efforts sa Commonwealth government na mag-promote og social justice through various programs, the resistance from land-owning legislators prevented the effective implementation of these initiatives, highlighting the challenges and conflicts of interest inherent in pursuing reforms aimed at addressing systematic inequalities. Here we see that the agrarian unrest evolved into a significant rebellion against the government with former members of the peasant guerrilla army, Hukbong Bayan laban sa Hapon or Hukbalahap, leading the movement. So, these ex-guerrillas who later renamed themselves Hukbong Mapagpalaya ng Bayan or People's Liberation Army. They played a central role in organizing and mobilizing discontented agrarian workers against the government. So, during the Rojas administration, 1946 to 1948, so President Manuel Rojas enacted agrarian reforms. So, it is Republic Act number 34. It established a 70-30 sharing arrangement between landlords and tenants and regulated shared tenancy contracts. We also have the Republic Act number 55. It provides security to tenants from arbitrary ejectment. So, these measures aim to ensure fairness and stability in the landlord-tenant relationships and protect agricultural workers' rights. On October 30, 1950, President Elpidio Quirino issued Executive Number 355, which dissolved the National Land Settlement Administration or NLSA and established the Land Settlement Development Corporation or La SEDICO as its replacement. So, La SEDICO assumed the responsibility previously held by NLSA and absorbed two agrarian offices. So, which is the Agricultural Machinery Equipment Corporation and the Rice and Corn Production Administration. So, this restructuring aimed to streamline and enhance the efficiency of land settlement and agricultural development efforts under the new corporation's auspices. Well, during the Magsaysay administration, 1953 to 1957, efforts were made to implement a land reform in the Philippines. In 1954, President Ramon Magsaysay signed Republic Act number 1199. It is also known as the Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954. So, this legislation aimed to regulate the relationship between tenants and landowners by organizing the shared tenancy and leasehold system. So, the Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954 represented a significant step towards addressing agrarian issues and promoting fairness in land ownership and tenant rights within the agricultural sector.
Third to Fifth Republic. The Land Reform Act of 1955 established the Land Tenure Administration to acquire and distribute large tenanted rice and corn lands. So, aiming for a more equitable land and wealth distribution. Public Act number 3844, also known as the Agricultural Land Reform Code by the President Diosdado Macapagal on August 8, 1965, the Agricultural Land Reform Code was a comprehensive law. Aim Reform Code was a comprehensive law aimed at transforming the agricultural sector by empowering tenant farmers and promoting land equity. So, the Agricultural Land Reform Code, signed by President Ferdinand Marcos in 1972, aimed to liberate the Filipino farmers from tenure constraints. So the government commitment to land reform was further emphasized by Presidential Decree number 2 and Republic Act number 6389, so which established the Department of Agrarian Reform to implement land reform, empower small farmers, and reduce rural poverty. In 1978, the government adopted a parliamentary system, and as a part of this transition, the Department of Agrarian Reform was renamed the Ministry of Agrarian Reform. So in October 1972, President Marcos signed Presidential Decree number 27. 1987 Philippines Constitution emphasizes agrarian reform, rural development, and equitable land distribution, providing a legal framework for farmers. A comprehensive agrarian reform law. And then the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law by Carl, also known as Republic Act number 6657. Was a landmark law signed by President Corazon Aquino. So, the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law in the Philippines aimed to ensure fair land distribution, improve farmers' lives, and promote sustainable agricultural development, though a legal basis.
Hello everyone, I'm Chrislyn L. Nervies, and we're going to explore about the other laws enacted by Aquino. Executive Order number 228, issued on July 16, 1987, granted full ownership to the qualified farmer beneficiaries as outlined in the Presidential Decree 27. Additionally, Executive Order number 229, dated July 22, 1987, established the framework for the implementation of the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, or CARP. These laws aimed to address the land reform issues and empower farmers. Moving on, we list the key executive orders and the proclamation of enacted during this period. Alongside Executive Orders 228 and 229, we have Proclamation number 131, Executive Order number 129A, and the Executive Order number 407, each contributing to the overarching goal of the agrarian reform and land distribution. Shifting our focus to the agrarian reform initiatives under the Ramos administration. Spanning from 1992 to 1998, President Ramos aimed to restore public trust in the Agrarian Reform Program, addressing the shortcomings of the previous administration. Notably, the failure of the Aquino's administration was contributed to the Cuancos family's control of large sugarcane haciendas, exempting them from reform efforts. Continuing, we explore the efforts made during the Ramos and subsequent Estrada administrations. President Ramos bolstered the implementation of curbing land conversion schemes. Republic Act No. 8532 injected an additional 50 billion into CARP, extending its implementation for another decade. Meanwhile, President Estrada focused on consolidating small farm operations and fostering joint projects through the Department of Agrarian Reforms. Highlighting the agrarian reform initiatives under the Arroyo administration, in 2009, the Department of Agrarian Reform was renamed the Department of Land Reform. The Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law aimed to elevate agricultural activities and improve the economic standing of beneficiaries. Republic Act No. 9700 extended the program for 5 years, allocating 150 billion for land acquisition, distribution, and support services. Lastly, we confront the challenges and realities faced despite these reform efforts. The Department of Agrarian Reform's performance fell short of promises to complete land redistribution by June 2014, with a significant focus on the agribusiness sector. Furthermore, local farmers contended with foreign agricultural products, flooding the market due to the government's economic liberalization policies.